Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Remote Work Wednesday. On behalf of the Remote Online Initiative and the K-State Research and Extension Community Vitality Team, we're really glad to have you with us. I'm Ron Wilson, Director of the Huck Boyd Institute for Rural Development at K-State Manhattan. Big thanks to Deborah Cole, who is Program Leader Coordinator for the K-State Research and Extension Community Vitality Team and providing support today. This is a project of the Remote Online Initiative, as you see on your screen. And our website is www.kansasremotework.com. So that's the place you can go to learn about the month-long online classes which we're offering that enable participants to become trained and certified as a remote work professional or a remote work team leader. So Remote Work Wednesday is a Zoom call each month for anyone interested in remote work. The goal is simply to learn about the opportunities and challenges of remote or hybrid work as people have chosen. Mike Sarles, who's with us, has been a previous speaker. This is a free call on the second Wednesday of each month, so we encourage you to join us regularly. Remote and or hybrid work can take different forms, and next month we'll be learning about the Canopy Company and the remote work that they are doing and the culture that's been embedded in their company in regard to remote work. So we'll have the opportunity to learn some lessons from a business that is practicing remote work daily. So make sure you join us at noon on September 11th next month. Remote work, as I mentioned, can take different forms in different ways. And certainly a co-working space is one of the alternatives. And today we'll learn about an example of a co-working space in rural Kansas, specifically the Hub in Plainville, Kansas, the hometown of our speaker, Kelli Hansen. Kelli is the lead volunteer who helps manage the Hub in Plainville. She grew up there in Plainville, earned a degree in business at Washburn University. She and her husband returned to Plainville for their business and community activities. In fact, I noted she served as mayor of Plainville from 2010 to 2018. So hats off to her. She now works as a grassroots strategic developer for the Kansas Department of Commerce Office of Rural Prosperity. These are the people who get stuff done, right? And that's part of Kelli's job. And she also has given leadership to the Hub co-working space in Plainville. So Kelli, please tell us about the Hub in Plainville and how that operates.
Okay. I'm going to, I think, Deborah, am I good to share my screen?
Please do if you can.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my screen now?
Looks great.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Ron, and thanks for having me here today. We're really excited about being able to share anything about our community and anything about rural communities. In my new capacity, I get to go out and see so many great examples of community development and community building, and this is just one way that we exhibited it in Plainville. This actually started in 2021, kind of as COVID was wrapping up, and I think people were hopefully tired of being at home. And one of the things that happened prior to COVID was we had an unfortunate business closure, and some of these businesses and buildings were beautifully renovated within the last 10 to 20 years. And at that time, the bank was getting ready to sell them, and our group, which was Downtown Plainville Inc., which was another nonprofit civic organization, kind of teamed up and collaborated with the Plainville Community Foundation, which is a local 501c3. And every time either a business closes or something happens in a downtown, especially in a rural community, everybody's biggest fears kind of start setting in, like who's gonna buy the building? Is it gonna be used for storage? Are they gonna take care of the building? So our group immediately started to put plans in place to get a hold of this building because, like I said, it was at the corner of Mill Street in Maine, and actually you'll be able to see that. Let me see my next screen. Oops. Um, so right there, kind of perfectly positioned, it's right there, sits at the corner of our business district, right there on Mill Street, in Maine, and it was a beautiful building. So our group, started figuring out how much grant funding it would require, what it would take in terms of to operate a co-working space. We already knew that there were many people already working from home in our community, especially coming out of COVID. And then we knew that there was one of the maybe few benefits of COVID was felt like there was kind of a renewed sense of community and wanting to get back out in the community and see people. You were kind of starved. You just saw people through a computer screen for so long. This building was already set up as an office. Again, it was beautifully renovated. So what it took was a business plan with the help of volunteer labor and grant funding, and we ended up taking this building. Part of the business plan is any business plan. You have to develop, a logo and a purpose, a mission, and how are you gonna market this? So this was the logo that several of us worked on, and I'll tell you the story about the hub kind of at the end because it's got a unique meaning to it that actually fits better at the end after you see the whole story. But it just everything came together so nicely into this logo. But now I'm going to walk you through kind of the building and what it looks like. Again, we didn't have to do the renovations. We were blessed with a building that was already renovated. I do want to quickly give kind of a shout out to some of our grants and sponsorships that we've received over the years. To get it started, we launched it through some grants, specifically the Kelli Hansen Foundation. Yes, we are located in the Magic Corner, that we are very, very happy about. Our regional Heartland Community Foundation also helped us with some of the equipment purchases. We received some sponsorship or another sponsorship from Rooks County Health Center to get us started. The Andreessen Family Trust came in and helped us purchase some equipment, as well as the Robert and Patrick Schmidt Foundation located here in Hayes, and then Midwest Energy, we applied for an innovation grant. And then since this time, we've gotten some additional sponsorships to help our organization everywhere through the city. Our Rooks County Economic Development, I saw Roger was on, which we were talking about you earlier. We'll clue you in on that conversation later, maybe, Roger. But we really reached out to organizations that understood our mission, understood what we were trying to do, and they obviously cared deeply about Northwest Kansas, and was willing to help us with the funding we needed to acquire the building and then get the building cleaned up and then back into service. So this is from the front door. You're looking in. We've got a really great lobby area there that people enjoy sitting there and visiting. You can have very informal meetings and chats there. That's used more frequently sometimes than even the conference room when it's a small group. And then the building is divided. It's got 6 semi-private desks there in the front of the building. It also has storage from the file cabinets. And again, we were blessed. All of this was in the building. We just had to come in and clean it up when it was fully renovated. Those are the limestone walls are just a beautiful backdrop. I wished I was taking my call from here today, but I am working remotely from anywhere and everywhere that has a plug-in and an internet access some days. But it's just uniquely beautiful all on its own, stripping it back to what it was. It's a wonderful kind of rural, innovative workspace that gives people a place where they can either, if they are working on a special project, we've had people come and say, "Hey, I'm working on a big project. I need a desk for a few days just to get me out of my regular routine." They've used it. We've got people that have a monthly membership. We had people that had an annual membership where they got to keep their desk. So it's been really really great for us to have this building. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of other things. I wanted to share our rate structure. A lot of times when I talk with people about how they go about a co-working space, this is always one of their questions. It's like, well, how do you charge, and how do you cover costs? And like I said, we were fortunate to have some really great sponsors, and we have support locally, but then we also have to, pay insurance and keep the lights on and pay for internet and all of that stuff. So we do charge anywhere from $25 a day, and that gives you 8 hours at the desk. We do a monthly rate of $175, or we do an annual rate of $1,500. This summer, we actually did a student sponsorship where we gave them, I think, 3 months for 150 or 250. That way, that gave, I know there were some kids that were doing summer classes, or parents that were ready to get their kids, a place where they could sit quietly and study. My son utilized it. He's studying for the dental acceptance test. So we set him up with a spot down there. So he had a dedicated spot to go to. He was ready to kind of plug in every day, and could get his studying in that he wanted to. And then, he didn't have to worry about, I didn't have to worry about his laptop sitting on my dining room table for the 3 months. So this was a really great space for that. We also have a private conference room. This was the one part that Downtown Plainville Inc. ended up having to put the money into, because it just had more cubicles, and we really thought that a conference room would be a better utilization of this space and a need in the community. And this is by far the most popular spot of the hub, because we have a lot of civic groups, we have a lot of organizations, and then private businesses that need a space, whether they're traveling through and they want to host a meeting, or they need to get together with some locals. This is the spot that they can use. We rent it in 4-hour increments. You can rent it for a full day for 50, and we also do a whole day for 100. We do have some kind of negotiated nonprofit rates as well. You can rent it monthly, again, for 300. And then we have an annual rate where if you just want to use the conference room annually and have a spot for monthly meetings or whatnot, that's where you can go. All of our memberships come with 24-hour access, whether it by key or the building is opened by somebody. So if you have a membership, you're not limited to the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 hour. It's open for you anytime, which kind of has presented some. One of the biggest things that we've learned with the co-working spot is you have to draw the line in terms of what you're utilizing the building for. We've had so many people reach out and say, hey, I want to have a birthday party. I want to have a bridal shower. I want to have all of these things in that conference room. It's the perfect space. It's a beautiful building. Can we do that? And we've been we drew the line as it had to be a civic organization, or it had to have an economic development purpose. And that can take a number of different shapes, which I realize as well. But at the end of the day, it's like, is this creating some sort of economic impact, or creating or helping a small business establish itself, or do some sort of business? We have one of our desks is rented monthly by somebody who she does TV interviews, and they can be early in the morning, they can be late at night. So when I have to explain to people, no, you can't have your birthday party there, because, and they're like, well, what if it's on a Saturday? It's like, well, it doesn't matter. This building is available to our tenants 24/7. So we have to be respectful of that. And so far they've understood. So that would be my one caution that I would tell people when they're getting into their co-working space, to establish those parameters very early on. Civic and community events and business purposes. And I'm going to go through just a few of the things that we've done in the building, so that way you guys see kind of the impact that we've been able to achieve with just this one small corner of our downtown. Oh, before I do that, this is just a couple of other views of our conference room. We've got, a TV, we have an owl, it's all wired in audio, video, and then one of the other things is you can reconfigure the room however you want, whether you want a classroom setting, a boardroom, a larger boardroom table. It's really been configured about every way possible, I think, over the past 2 years. So highly versatile. This was just more kind of of our membership benefits. If you ever want to see more about this or send this to somewhere, on our website, it's thehubplainville.com. It has all of this stuff. You can book a space, you can send an email. Just know you're going to send the email to an inbox that's actually checked by 2 or 3 different volunteers. So we will get back to you. But these are some of the events that we've hosted there, and again, the use of we actually had this really great women entrepreneur event where we were one of the 3 spots in Kansas where we had women entrepreneurs gather for a national conference, which was really cool to get to zoom into that, but then also have just discussions among our local groups. This was something that we started last year, and this has been a lot of fun. We also utilized the space outdoors. We, like a lot of small towns, had several restaurant closures and just a lack of food options sometimes. So what we did was we put in a breaker box big enough for food trucks right outside the building, and we again came up with a way to market it as Main Street downtown dining. And we've tried to schedule just different food trucks. We were lucky to have some regular food trucks come on certain nights, and then the rest of them have just been just reaching out to people to say, hey, would you like to stop in Plainville? And we don't have them as regularly, I guess, sometimes as I'd like, but it is a beautiful spot where we've had everything from shaved ice to Italian. We've had Mexican there more times than I can count, but more than anything, it's been a way to gather community. Again, entrepreneurial spirit, helping the shaved ice. That's a youth entrepreneur that has started her own business, and Roger can probably talk more about that then, because I know he's worked with him through economic development. But it's just been a fun way to bring the community together in a unique dining atmosphere and utilize the building for, again, one more purpose. So we've been really excited about that. We wrote a grant to the Heartland Community Foundation, and that's we were able to purchase the picnic tables. There are also umbrellas that go with them for back there as well. So just another gathering spot in downtown. It's also been not just when we talk about co-working, we talk about community engagement, community events. This was a big community event where the storm tracker came through, and they did what was that called, Roger? The summer road trip was a stop in Plainville, and we met down there at the hub. So you can see it's really been the hub of the community in our downtown. We've used it for pop-up shops. Again, economic development, small business purpose, where they did Easter and Valentine's Day, where they brought baked goods and sold it from the front of the hub, which was, again, people will definitely show up in hordes for cookies and cupcakes and whatnot. And then it's also been one of the spots that we host our annual Christmas fundraiser, which is a cookie crawl, brought by Downtown Plainville Inc., where businesses each supply a stop with one cookie, and they check in at the hub, and they get a list of like 18 different stops, and it's like a beer crawl, but it's a cookie crawl. Once you go into each business, you get one cookie, and by the time you're done, you have a whole tote full of homemade baked goods. We had the carolers out front from the grade school, and so we've really tried to utilize this building in a number of different ways to make it viable again in the community. Um, One of the things, kind of talking about the end, why we named it the Hub, it was interesting when we were researching the building, and several of us knew this, that back in the 1900s, this building was actually called the Hub, and it was a men's ready-to-wear shop. So when we were coming up with names for it, we feel, we really thought that the Hub worked great for a co-working space, and really, after 100 years, the name still fits. So that's why we went with the Hub, and seeing it being utilized by so many different aspects in the community, when all we really wanted to do was save the building from being, used for storage, or, just not being taken care of, or somebody from out of town maybe purchasing it for their real estate portfolio or something like that. I will say that the other thing that's unique about downtown, we're always open. It's kind of held a placeholder. There could be another business out there that could use the space. So we're always open to understanding what the business needs are in the community. If there would be a business potentially that would be looking for space, and this one would suit it, I'm sure that we would entertain something like that as well. So it's all about stores on Main Street and creating traffic in our downtown, which is the heart of our community. So that's what we did. It's 2.5, almost 3 years now that we've kept it up and running, and challenges along the way. But again, we saved the building, and everybody seems to really enjoy it. I don't know if there's any questions. Ron, do you have any follow-up comments? I kind
Thanks.
of went through
Well,
where
great job,
where
Kelly.
we.
It just, yeah, it's terrific. That's great, and we'll encourage questions in a minute. You are blessed to be in the magic corner of Kansas, where the Hansen Foundation and other resources have really made an impact, and tremendous support there. You're also in the Next Tech region. Is Next Tech your internet provider, or who is your internet service?
Yes. Yep. It's all through Nextech. We have it all wired and ready, and we worked with them on pricing, and they've been great in terms of any troubleshooting that we have to have. There's been times that we've had people come in that they need their own kind of private network, so we've been able to work with them on all the tech stuff. So yeah, we're a community that has some really great resources, and while yes, we are in the magic corner of Kansas with the Hansen Foundation, I would be remiss not to talk about all of the good work that the Patterson Family Foundation does all across rural Kansas, and just the partnerships that they have with the Dangy Hansen Service Territory. So I think as Kansans, I'm learning in my new job, there are so many resources available, and organizations like where I work, the Office of Rural Prosperity, that really tries to tailor all of our programs to rural challenges, and how do we help all of these communities succeed, because Kansas is predominantly made up of rural communities. So, when rural does well, everybody does well.
Well, I appreciate the great work you're doing with Office of Rural Prosperity, and this is a really, really interesting example. As I recall from our earlier conversation, one thing that maybe was a pleasant surprise was the number of folks over the holidays who were back in Plainville and needed a spot, a quiet place where they could do some work when they were visiting family, but still had some work responsibilities. Would you speak to that, or any other surprises maybe that
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
encountered?
that's been it's kind of fun, because you can catch up with, old classmates or people that we went to school with, because they would, they get on Facebook and they see what we're doing back in their hometown, and they'll be like, ooh, if I could actually take my, even Thursday, Friday calls from back home, and I'm already there for a long weekend or for the holidays. So yeah, there's been the alumni that have reached out, but then also coincidentally, sometimes the parents reach out and say, "Hey, I know you have that spot. I would love to rent one for my son," instead of him being, right here in the middle of things while I'm trying to cook for the holidays. So that's been a lot of fun to utilize the space for that. And then, we get to catch up with them and they get to, be downtown. And sometimes they do more visiting than working. I've found out because they'll see people walking by, going to the post office, and it's such a unique environment, especially if they now live in Kansas City or in Wichita or Lawrence, where their normal work day, they don't come across their old high school coach or somebody they went to church with, and a daily conversation. Where for us living in our rural communities, we get to interact with people on a daily basis. If it's just walking over to the pharmacy or running to the hardware store, you'll see people. So, and we can do that in a matter of minutes, where they have to jump in a car, go to Home Depot, come back, and they probably don't see anybody that they really had a connection with. So definitely a renewed sense of rural. With a lot of people there, a lot of them are also jealous of our, getting to be here and, have very successful careers and rewarding things that you're doing, but you're doing it from your hometown. So.
That's very exciting. You mentioned your son's study for the pre-dental exam, the professional exam, and I wonder about the role for students. Have you seen very much of that? And I assume that there's the public library in town is also a source for where students can be.
Yeah, they don't. So our library is definitely in need of an expansion, and I know they're working on stuff like that. And there's a lot of our library is heavily utilized. So they do have some spaces there in the library, but if you're really needing a spot where you can kind of just tuck away, this would be a great opportunity to come try us out. High school students, not so much, but we've had a lot of professionals in the community that, again, they need a day
Yes.
to not sit in their office. They're working on a large grant for something. They're working on a business plan. They're working on something that they can't be interrupted. They're like, $25 done. And we
Yes.
have a coffee bar, we have the fridge, the microwave, whatever they need, and you can get a lot of work done when you don't have those distractions every day.
It would be ideal for that. There's a couple of questions in the chat from a couple from Kaylee Long. Kelly, what was the timeline between taking the building over to getting people into it? In your case, you were fortunate in that the building was in pretty good shape, but what was that time frame like?
So we received some of our first grant funding early fall of 2021. And so then once we got all the paperwork and the deed and ownership, it was really about cleaning out the building, ordering the conference room chairs. So it was about 5 months when we opened officially in January of 2022. So once we started,
That's
yeah, the funding, then we were able to really move. So.
that's
Oh, Ron, you're muted.
Thanks. Sorry about that. That's a remarkably fast time frame. Um, so from what I've observed, sometimes these things are feast or famine. You have a busy stretch and then not. The question is for the individual desks in the conference room, are things booked pretty steadily, or what's that flow look like?
The first year we had an annual subscription that did really, really well. So we'd have that steady amount of income. Then we have somebody in there monthly. I would say our conference room is utilized at least several times a month. Um, at least once a week, I feel like somebody's using it. So it's a steady enough stream. We also, like I said, we have some sponsorships from from other local businesses and organizations that see what we're doing down there and want to utilize the space. So they kick in as well. So like I said, we can keep the power. We face challenges like every other for-profit. Insurance rates are going up, utilities, everything seems to cost more. So there are times that it's a struggle thinking, okay, but we try and budget for the whole year so we know that we're good for this year. And then, like I said, we've been Downtown Plainville Inc. also puts on a couple of different events throughout the year, and some of those events do generate some income for us as well. So we use it as our operating headquarters, if nothing else. We get by, just like everybody in a rural community. It's like you got to get by.
Absolutely. And I remember it's been dated, but I remember seeing a map of co-working spaces, and you'd see them in the urban areas where, there's a critical mass of people, and those professionals need an option maybe as their business starts to expand. And so to see a co-working space in a really rural setting is very exciting to me. What about words of advice? What if you were to pass on some key points to people interested in a co-working space in a rural setting? What would you suggest?
Well, for one, I would definitely say, and one thing that we considered, but we were so enamored with the way the building looks, having private offices are definitely, if you really want to make a go of it and have a very consistent cash flow, having private offices for people, because that's the one thing people ask, is they're needing a private office space where they have some confidentiality or something like that. And we looked and we talked about, what if we would put in some walls down the center, and maybe put in a couple of offices. What would that do to the building? And it's definitely an upfront expense. And if we were looking more long term in terms of, what does the next 5 years look like, and what is the volunteer base looking like? That could be a consideration. But private offices are definitely, you've probably seen Brief Space over in Hayes, and the way they have their private offices. And it's a real need, especially in rural communities, to have a space where they don't want a whole building. They don't want to take on the building ownership and maintenance and all of that, but yet they need the space. So definitely consider private offices, but then also not be closed off about what's the intent of the building. Like I said, you do have to draw the line in terms of what constitute economic development and what's a private event. So sticking true to what your real overall mission is of the building would be my other piece of advice.
Thanks, Kelly. Let me see if there are any other questions anyone cares to pose. There's some compliments, lots of compliments in the chat, Kelly. It's a neat project and a beautiful building. That's just a gorgeous building, and the way it's been done, it looks great to me. Reasonable pricing, and love the strategy of the food trucks for the community as well.
That was probably some of the most fun. Yeah, definitely fun to see kind of gathered on Main Street. And before we knew it, sometimes the lines would get so long that people couldn't even drive down the street because people would just be standing in the middle of the street. But again, it's Plainville, it's rural. You can just, they can just go around the block, or they just kind of, scoot their way through. So.
And I share the spirit of Kaylee's comment in the chat. She says, I am really drawn to the beauty of this space. What a great space and opportunity for your community. And I certainly agree and applaud you for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Not seeing them today. Gosh, virtual round of applause for Kelli here. Terrific presentation, Kelli, and you're doing great work there, and in your case across the Western Kansas, and we really appreciate it.
Well,
So,
I'm the fortunate one that I get to go out every day and get to see really unique, great projects, and there's a lot of Kansans out there doing some pretty remarkable work.
well, we appreciate that, Kelli, and encourage you to keep up your great work. And thanks for sharing about the hub
Yes.
in Plainville. Um, Next month, uh, our Remote Work Wednesday will be on September 11. As we said before, Canopy is a really interesting company. They've operated in different forms over time. They've been an entirely remote company. They're a remote option company, I believe, currently. And so we're going to learn a couple of things. One, how they have built their culture around remote work in their business. And secondly, we're going to hear from their company as to their best practice in dealing with clients who are entirely remote and all across the nation. So we encourage you to join us next month to learn about building the culture of remote work in a business and with their outside clientele, and more best practices and challenges of remote work. So thanks again to Kelli Hansen, and we look forward to seeing you in September. So for now, thanks for joining us and have a wonderful Remote Work Wednesday. Good afternoon. Thanks, Kelli. That was super.
Yeah, thank you. We will see